Who is that man I see with a hook and swarmed by bees? Oh my God, it's Candyman, someone we all know. To bring him into your life, just say his name a mere 5 times. Well, let's get to the review of Candyman, written and directed by Nia DaCosta, who's directing the upcoming The Marvels project. Also written by Jordan Peele of Get Out and Us fame, and written by Win Rosenfield. Congratulations, you won whatever a Rosenfield is. And it's a sequel to the 1992 movie Candyman, a cult classic starring Tony Todd and Virginia Madsen. And it does, of course, reference the stuff, that happened in the 1992 movie. Otherwise, it would be weird for it to be a sequel. And it sort of references what happened in the 2 following movies, though largely ignores those, which is probably a good thing. And it stars a cast that basically is trying to bring the Candyman story into the modern age. Now, I did recently retro review the Candyman movie and was going to go watch this in theaters, but since it's available on streaming, I was like, fuck it, I'll just pay $20 and sit at home and watch it on Amazon Video. And that's basically what I did. And I will say this, much like the first one has a cult classic status that doesn't really utilize Candyman for that long. I mean, eventually we, hear about the story and everything, the backstory and all that stuff, as Virginia Madsen's character, Helen, studies up on that. And then eventually things go tits up, literally and figuratively. And, well, she decides to dance into the fire. She ends up saving a baby boy and sacrifices herself to Candyman, basically, to end his reign of terror and also, begin her reign, because they showed her at the end. It was like, oh no, she's going to be the new Candyman. And then they largely forgot that. So yeah, this is some 29 years later. It's back in Chicago, and the Candyman can, because he mixes up his blood with your great big hook, or his great big hook. Anyway, totally botched that. They all can't be winners when it comes to my singing, i.e. none of them, because I can't sing at all, as you probably figured out. So puppets were the main theme of this thing, because we see shadow puppets and also, the paper puppets. And I will say the puppetry work is pretty goddamn good here. Also the puppetry work, when they weren't just pulling the strings on the actors and make them act all robotic, was really nice too. Ho ho, this is going well. The thing I loved about the first Candyman movie was it addressed the real-life racial injustices that so many African Americans go through. And that was right on the heels of the Rodney King riots and the Rodney King beating and stuff like that. And it was just, boy, it was something else. It really was. It was well timed and really did generate a lot of buzz. And some people were calling this movie woke. Well, clearly they didn't watch the first Candyman. Like, oh, it's too woke and everything. It's focusing all on the racial injustices. As far as that aspect, the movie covers that pretty damn well. Now, there are subtle hints at it and everything, and then there's some dialogue dropped, with all the subtlety of a goddamn sledgehammer to the skull. But considering the obvious injustices that still happen, what, police are doing, everything, and the crime, and, the targets, and, people that were made targets just because of their skin color, that part of the movie will hit home for a lot of people. The thing is, if you're a horror movie fan, you want to see some, stupid people get killed. I mean, you kind of get that, but also, you don't really care about any of these characters. None of them really mean anything, and they're just basically there as props to get killed, which sometimes is all you need in a movie. But the first one had Tony Todd, who had already made a name for himself at that point. He was in the Night of the Living Dead remake and was really good in that, and would go on to, be in the impending Candyman sequels, and also be Bloodworth, the funeral home worker in Final Destination, the entire franchise, except I think maybe for the 4th one, i.e. the one that wasn't good. And then also he would, be in The Rock. He's a really good character actor and really good in movies. So the thing about this, though, is it has a few name actors, and it has people that have obviously been in other roles before. It's not like this is their first movie, but the thing is, the acting, they try, but the character work, one of the characters, once you find out their last name, I'm not going to spoil it here, I'll get into the spoiler section a little bit later. Once you find out one of the characters' last names, you know exactly where it's going, you know exactly who he is, and everything becomes obvious. Now, predictability is not the worst thing in the world, because you can't really reinvent the wheel that much with horror, but you got to make it scary. That's where the movie falls flat, outside of the racial, tensions and undertones and addressing that stuff. And there was a nice hook at the end, visiting the Candyman movie website, and, for various, there are various, links to ways to help fight racial injustice and everything. And that was a good message. It's just as a movie, it wasn't very good because it was a rehash and it was ridiculous, and I didn't care what happened to anybody in the movie. At least in the first one, yes, Virginia Madsen's character made a whole lot of stupid decisions, but eventually it's like, okay, Candyman's here and stuff like that, and she was what she was. She did some stupid stuff, but cool, Candyman's here, and he eventually does get there and do some stuff. And the thing is, the movie kind of limps along, and for a movie that involved Candyman, he was only in about 25% of the movie. In this one, they kind of show Candyman right away. It's like, holy shit, oh, there he is. Okay, cool, all right, let's show and then we cut away from that. They cut away from a lot of the violence. I guess there was blood that flowed, and there was some other stuff here, but quite a bit of the violence would just happen either in darkened rooms or almost like, in like weird alternate shots and stuff like that. It's like they were afraid to show this, and it just made no sense. Like, if you're going to make something about a slasher, especially somebody that was treated badly, and try to make them a sympathetic figure even as they're destroying people, whether they're innocent or not, you have to actually try and show the kills. You can't just go gore, gore, gore for the sake of it, but you have to try and show something, and that's where the movie also fell flat. Plus, since it was so goddamn obvious where the thing was going, even though this was as long as the previous movie, this motherfucker felt very stretched out. It felt more like a concept than an actual goddamn sequel. Something just wasn't clicking for me, and it got worse and worse and worse as it went along. It just wasn't good. Like, it ended up addressing one issue while not really being much of a horror movie as far as I'm concerned. So the main character Anthony, that's all I'm going to say right now, is an artist. He gets inspired to do some work after talking to a guy named Burke that works at a laundromat that tells him the story about Candyman. So he finds out about how the guy that was accused of being Candyman, Sherman Fields, was, there was candy found in a razor blade found in a white girl's candy. And because it was 1977 and Chicago and the PD were like, fuck, we'll just go after this guy. They destroy and kill him, and then it turns out, oh no, there's candy still popping up and everything after he died, so he was innocent. And then the lore of Candyman and Anthony kind of goes off the rails on a crazy train. Even after his art takes off, his girlfriend Brianna is like noticing that things are changing and everything. And also there's the bee stuff, the bee, because Candyman, not the bees. And Anthony just basically slowly descends into madness, and then rapidly descends into madness. And then it's obvious who the person is behind this. It's just, they try to throw a couple third act twists in there. One that everybody saw coming from a mile away, especially if you've seen the first one. And another one that you also saw coming from a mile away, because it was just, because why the fuck not? Why wouldn't this character do this particular thing? There's not really much else to say. It wasn't a good horror movie, but it had some good commentary on racial injustice. So now I'm going to get into spoilers here. So it's $20 on Amazon. So I would get a couple friends with you if I were you, unless you just want to plunk the money down. Those are my takes. So let's get into spoilers now. Spoilers. 8:15. Spoilers. Okay, if you're still here, spoilers. All right. So I kept thinking, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy, ooh, piece of candy. We start in 1977. We see a kid taking his laundry down to the laundromat, living in an apartment complex, and then he notices, oh my god, this guy's been living in the wall for so long. And he, and it's that Sherman Fields guy. He has a hook, and he's been giving candy out and stuff like that. He hands candy to this kid that's obviously Burke. There's obviously a younger Burke. And, well, there's a hole in the wall where Candyman can see it all, and then the great Chicago inside out, upside and down and out cake. I really just butchered that. He gets beaten, and of course he does. Now to 2019, we get Troy, not the Brad Pitt movie, and his boyfriend. Troy is the brother of Brianna, who has Anthony, and basically they all get along pretty goddamn well. But Anthony's kind of dedicated to his work. Brianna's also, has her own art shows and stuff like that, and has her own backstory as far as her father having committed suicide. Why did he commit suicide? Well, come on, it's pretty obvious. Candyman got to him. So anyway, or maybe he didn't. Fuck, who really knows? Like, they told so much stuff so quickly at one point. Like, it's up to you to interpret it in your own way. And then Helen Lyle, Virginia Madsen's character, she's told and everything. Not shown, more in the pity, since she's still beautiful at age 60. And what happened? She reported on the stuff, research. She snapped. She put a baby in a fire, but then the baby got taken out and everything, and she burned alive. Which actually, what it was is she saved the baby. Don't save the baby. Save the baby. She saved the baby and then sacrificed herself to her and Candyman basically to end that whole goddamn thing, and it didn't end the franchise, unfortunately. And gee, I wonder who that kid is. So the character is Anthony McCoy. Anne Marie McCoy. Remember the mother, that had the Rottweiler that got disemboweled in the first one? Yeah, that's her son. And, the same actress, Vanessa Williams, no, not the singer, was in this. I took a look at how she looked in the first one. I actually did that before, and I go, huh. And then I looked at her here, and I go, is she a fucking immortal? Genuine question. She's aged gracefully. She's 58, I think. She's aged gracefully. She looks great. Doesn't look like she's aged one goddamn bit. But it turns out that that's what the deal is. That's the third act twist. So as Anthony's losing his mind and talking to Burke and stuff like that, Burke keeps telling him these stories and planting this stuff in his head, and he goes, more mad, more mad. And then he has a Say My Name exhibit, No, Not the Destiny's Child song, and does this thing where he is talking to an art critic named Finley, who does not love to fight. She was in Princess Sid and a few other movies as well. Rebecca Spence, she actually was pretty good in this, even in a supporting role. There is a beauty, Miriam Moss, rather, who had a green streak in her hair and everything. And I mean, she kind of reminded me of when I saw Jenna Cannell in Bye Bye Man, where I'm like, okay, I need to see more stuff of what she's in. She's got a presence. And yeah, basically this, the racial stuff gets brought up and everything as an interpretation of art, and it doesn't really come together as a cohesive movie, because then suddenly he's over here, he's talking, he finds Helen's tapes and he's listening to that, and then he starts seeing Candyman because Candyman's taking him over because he got stung by a bee. So now he's not the bees, he's suddenly getting taken over. Oh no, why is he getting taken over? Well, it's because he was the son from the fire and everything, and because they invoked his name, somebody invoked his name, I wonder who. Suddenly, oh my god, Candyman's back, and now he's targeting the kid, who's now a grown man. So, this character, everybody ends up basically dying. There's this goofy thing where this one girl ends up getting, witnessing all these, trash, or basically stereotypical trash girls, like the bullies and stuff like that, getting murdered in, off-screen goofy ways by Candyman. Because why not? We need to advance the plot a little bit or keep it going for an extra few minutes because we don't have much material for this shit. People are just getting killed left and right and center. And then it turns out that Burke's behind the whole goddamn thing. He needs to create another Candyman. Why? Why the fuck not? Maybe to remind people of the racial injustices, or because he's just batshit insane and running a laundromat for 40 fucking years drove him fucking crazy, especially after he saw Candyman. And they just make it kind of reminded me of Separation, where they made the villain one of the most obvious ones. It was like, because there was only a few characters it could have been, and this is a bigger cast than that. But don't you want a sweet? And then Brianna's here, she kills him easily. I mean, I don't know how the fuck he didn't trip over something and smash his head, or didn't get taken over by like a couple field mice, because he was easily dispatched. He had cut off Anthony's hand and made him like, this version of Candyman, complete with the coat. Must have taken it from Tony Todd. Or maybe Tony Todd said, borrow it and then be my victim. Okay, Tony, we know you're going to be in the movie. Okay, we don't need victim. Be my... Oh, god damn it. Anyway, somebody get him some, blood-worth sausage. So moving on from that. Anthony is suddenly coherent, and then he gets shot by the cops in ways, kind of like the puppets doing all this stuff. And then the cop tells her what to say. Hey, you can either say this, or we can accuse you of it, and you can go to jail. And then she says, look, let me look in the mirror, and I will say whatever you want. She says Candyman 5 times, summons her boyfriend, he kills the cops, and then Tony Todd suddenly shows up and says, tell everyone. Yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. I was gonna give this a much harsher grade. I'm going to say a D. Here's why it's gonna be a D. Because I thought they addressed the racial injustice stuff fine. And I thought some of the acting was okay, but as a horror movie, it just wasn't very good. And I would definitely say, as far as the original compared to this, sure, they showed Candyman a little bit more, but to seem more of a rehash of the other one rather than trying to be its standalone sequel. So those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retland. I'll see you soon.